Hi, welcome to the Corner of Knit and Tea, episode 294. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffyk on Ravelry, Fluffykira on Instagram and Twitter. I blog over at the corner of knitandtea.com, and that's where this episode and every episode show notes will be. We have an Etsy shop called the Corner of Knit and Tea, where I sell my handspun yarns and some of my knit patterns, and I also sell patterns on Ravelry. There is a Ravelry group, but I am still contemplating where to move that right now because I know Ravelry is not accessible to everyone. I am looking at potentially just moving it to Facebook. I know that Facebook is also one of the great evils right now, but I am trying to find a platform that everyone can access without having to download a whole new platform. So I'm thinking that may be where we end up. If you have comments on where you would like to see us end up, please go ahead and leave them here, or you can contact me at any one of the other locations I suggested: Instagram, Twitter, email thecornerofknitandtea@gmail.com, and let me know what you think. I will take them all into consideration as I try and determine what comes next. So, hi, how are you? I am a day late. It is Tuesday, September 8th. I should have recorded it yesterday, but I was busy doing things and I ran out of time and light and just decided to postpone for today. Of course, after a holiday weekend in the US, Tuesday is the Mondayest of days, and so I had plenty going on at work today. It is now almost 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I am coming to you from just outside Kansas City, where we have had a precipitous drop in temperature. It is not as extreme as those of you who may live in Colorado. I've been watching those, but we were a good 90 degrees yesterday, and we are in the 50s and 60s, low 60s today, and it is overcast and it feels maybe like the beginning of fall. I know it's going to be a little warmer in the 70s towards the end of the week, so we're not really there yet, but I layered up today and I have a fall tea to drink, and I am all about fall right now. I guess I'm over the summer heat. I was never really a summer heat person. And fall, I love fall. I mean, I grew up in California where there basically are no seasons. And so I do love cooling temperatures and the chill in the air and putting on extra woolens, and it's not until January or February that winter sets in and I am ready for spring and summer again. So I guess I'm always looking forward to what's next. But fall always feels like the knitting season to me. I want to wear warm woolens, I want to create warm woolens, I have holiday knitting, and everything's kind of exciting, even though this year I think will be a little bit different. So, that's pretty much it for me. I did have a couple days alone this weekend, which was nice. My husband went to help his mom move some furniture. Unfortunately, I was feeling a little under the weather, so I didn't do much, and not that I would have gotten out and done anything anyway, but it was nice to have a little time to myself. I also watched the Tour de France, which actually kicked off last weekend. As you know, I am an avid tour watcher. I decided not to do a second team this year or do another TDF spin, although I have been spinning while I watch them. And some nights I watch the recaps, and then over the weekend I actually watched the full 5-hour broadcasts, which are hefty, but I love seeing the French countryside and seeing what happens in the race. So let's get started because I have lots and lots and lots to talk about. I have so many new cast-ons and things to tell you. So today I decided to go all fall, and I am drinking Sweet Pumpkin Harvest by Celestial Seasonings, one of my favorite teas. This is black tea with pumpkin spices. Let me get the ingredients. Black tea, cinnamon, ginger, roasted chicory, pumpkin flavor, cloves, nutmeg, and a little bit of sweetener, as well as some pumpkin. So, and I told you I'm going all fall, put that in my trick-or-treat Hello Kitty mug. So I figured I might as well use these now. I only get a few months, and of course this year is going to be odd anyway, because there aren't going to be any big Halloween celebrations or other things, so I might as well use them while they make me happy. So that's what I've got going on in my mug. Let's talk about the knits. So I have one small finished object. I showed you half of it last week, and those are socks for Miles. They are knit in online comfort wool super sock. And they are in the planetary colorway, and I got them within a row or two of matching. There's just a very, very, very slight difference, and so I had to, you know, finagle them a little bit, and the toes look ever so slightly different because I went into the next color a little bit on this toe, but they are almost the exact same, and I hope he will love them. I still need to do another pair for him, but I went ahead and cast on a pair for my mom this week, which you'll see momentarily. So these were my itty bitty finished object for the week. I cast on a lot of things. Let's talk about the one thing that I was working on before this week, and then I will talk to you about all the things I cast on. So what I was working on before this week was Elfie by Astrid Schramm. It is a sweater pattern on Ravelry. It is a top down with contiguous sleeves and A-line tunic knit in fingering weight. The original called to be knit in 2 colors. I did knit one recently in 2 colors as a sample for Zen Yarn Garden. I am sort of knitting mine in 2 colors now, but not really, not the way the pattern suggests. The pattern does sort of a gradual fade from one color into the next color with stripes. Sort of wide stripes of one color and skinny stripes of another, and then they gradually kind of reverse. So then you're knitting small stripes of the one color and bigger stripes of the second color. I am knitting mine all in one color, except I decided to add a little touch of color around the neck, and so I'm adding neck bands and cuffs and a hem, and this is looking very sweater-like. As you remember, the last time I showed you, I had almost just separated for the sleeves, and now I am several inches into the body. Those of you who are astute will notice that the bottom skein is darker than the top skein. Yes, this is what I talk about when I say do as I say, not as I do. I knew that I had multiple skeins for this project. I knew that I had alternated them last time. I was lazy and did not alternate them this time. What you can see that I did in the body is as I transitioned into the second skein, I did alternate rows for maybe about an inch or two, kind of transitioning to the second skein, and the second skein is darker. So what I am going to do is I am going to go through the remainder of the balls that I have in my stash. Remember, this was reclaimed from a previous project, and I'm going to finish the bottom of the body in the darker skein and then go into ribbing on the bottom. I am not concerned about this, even though it is pooling just a little bit. I knew this could potentially happen by not alternating skeins, so I knew it and I did it anyway. And like I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to use the darker skein down at the bottom, so it's just kind of like a little bit of a fade, and then I will use the other skein for the sleeves, so at least the sleeves will match. So even though it will be not quite right, I think it will be fine. I'm not bothered by it in the least. This is going to be a very comfy sweater, and I'm looking forward to having it done. Last I checked, I had about 8 or 9 inches on the body. I believe I need to have about 14 before I do the hem. I will double check that because I am adding a hem I am adding a hem just like I added a collar that is not called for in the pattern. I am also adding sleeves to the pattern. I have enough yarn to do them. They will just be stockinette sleeves, fairly loose, probably just a little bit of shaping. I'll have to design those on my own, but the way Elfie is written, basically you would bind off 4 sleeves here, which I did not do, but I will go ahead and pick up the sleeves that I put on hold very much in the shaping, and then I will pick up some stitches from the bottom of the armhole here, and then I will just do some simple shaping down to the cuff, and then I will do a cuff much like the ribbing here. So the yarns that I am using are spun right round in her 80/20 Sport, which is in the colorway The Walkers. And it is a kind of mottled gray with bits of kind of a bright yellow and green and some purple. And then the purple that I am using is Tartlet Sport from Kim Dye's yarn, and that is in the Plumstruck colorway, which is a very, very deep dark purple, but the darkest bits of the purple pretty much match the darkest bits of the purple on here. It's a little dark. I could have gone a little bit lighter with a color like this, but I just decided I wanted it to be dark and moody. So I will be working on this as I can. over the next few weeks. I have a bunch of other things to show you that have jumped on my needles, some of which are deadline related, some of which are not. So I still plan to, I want to have this finished by the end of September. I guess we are at September 8th right now, so we're almost a third in. Crazy how that already happens. But this is on my list of things to finish, and I have some good books to read this month, and now this is basically almost entirely just mindless knit in the round. There is a little bit of shaping every so often to make it A-line, but really not much at all, and so this would be good reading knitting, because I can just knit in the round. I'm knitting this on a size 6. I can't remember if the pattern calls for a 5 or a 6. I might have gone up to a 6. The pattern calls for fingering weight yarn, and I am using sport weight. I discussed my modifications in the last, like how I calculated that and what size I picked and everything in the last couple episodes of the podcast, so you can refer back to 293 and 292 if you want to hear a little bit about that. So that is my Elfie sweater. So let's talk about the cast-ons. I cast on another sample. The first sample, or the sample knit that I cast on, was for, again, Zen Yarn Garden. I love working with them, and they pick out patterns for me to knit, and there was a new pattern that came out last week. It is by Mary Annarella, who also goes by Lyrical Knits, and she released a shawl pattern inspired by an Emily Dickinson poem, and the shawl is called Hope and Feathers, and it is a two-colored shawl. It has some sections of sort of partial garter stitch and then some sections of mosaic stitch, which is slipped stitch knitting, using slip stitch knitting to create patterns in two colors. And I am again working on this with some of Zen Yarn Garden's newest yarn. This is their Nightshade yarn, which, as I've said before, is a 3-ply superfine fingering, 100% superwash merino. One of the plies is black, so it gives it a very marled look, and this one is orange and green and yellow, and it is called Peach Blossom. And even though these aren't normally my colors, I really like this one, and I like how it's knitting up. And then as a contrast, I am using another skein of their superfine fingering in the natural. So it's kind of a wide contrast, but I think it will be really pretty. And actually, I know we're going into fall, but this shawl almost seems springy to me. So I have only done a very little bit of this shawl. I finished the setup and then the first section. So I've got the little bit of the setup, which shows you a little bit of the color, the Peach Blossom, and then this is the first section of the mosaic slip stitch patterning, and I really like how the colors are playing together and how the yellow and orange and green are playing in that. I really think it's nice looking. It will probably be a little busier looking in the next section, which is a garter section, which I plan to work on this evening, but it's really just kind of fun and bright and springy, and so I'm really pleased with it. So far this looks to be a wonderful knit. It's well written, and I can highly recommend it. So that is Hope and Feathers, and again, I am knitting in Zen Yarn Garden, and you will probably see that for the next 2 weeks as I work on that one. The next knit that I cast on is something that I believe I talked about last week. My niece Roxy, who is going to be 7 in October, is reading. She's been reading actually for over a year now, and she has started to read the Harry Potter books. And she is absolutely thrilled with the Harry Potter universe. And I know that in recent months, well, in the last couple years, J.K. Rowling has said some really abhorrent things, and I really do not support J.K. Rowling, but and I will not purchase her offerings in the future. That said, I have all the Harry Potter books already on my shelf from ages ago. My sister does as well, and it's really exciting seeing a fandom and a fun universe through a 7-year-old's eyes. And she has already read, last I checked, she had read the first 2 books, and she had read the third, or was in the middle of the third, and I don't know at what point my sister may cut her off, because she's growing up faster than the books are. The books came out like one a year, and she's going through them far faster. But it's really sweet. They are reading a book together, and then Roxy goes back and reads it by herself. And of course, because she is 7 and she is in love with it, she wants to be a Gryffindor, just like Hermione. And so this year for her, I always knit her a scarf and hat and mitten set, and this year it's going to be Gryffindor themed. I have knit some of these scarves in the past. I am knitting, technically, I believe it's the one from The Prisoner of Azkaban, and I will show you that in just a minute. The last time that I knit these, I knit them in Barocco Vintage, which is wonderful. It is a 50-50 wool acrylic. But he created the Harry Potter scarves. A lot of them are knit in tubes. So you can knit them in the round, and then you just seam the ends of the tube together, add fringe, and you've got a really thick, heavy scarf. I loved the one I knit. It turned out it was back when I really wanted to be a Ravenclaw, and it turns out I'm not a Ravenclaw. So I actually gave that to my friend who is a Ravenclaw. But I knit this gorgeous, like 8-foot scarf that was basically double thick in Barocco Vintage, and it was absolutely amazing, but it was so heavy and warm. And I realized that I cannot possibly knit a 7-year-old a scarf that long and warm and heavy. So I went ahead and switched up the weight. I decided that if I knit her a scarf in the round in a fingering weight, it would be approximately a worsted weight when I got done with it. So I went looking, and I pulled Barocco Ultra Wool Fine. It is 100% superwash wool. It was very reasonable. I cannot remember exactly what the price is, but it was definitely less than $10 a ball, and I bought a few different balls. This is the Sour Cherry colorway, and this is the Butternut colorway, and I thought those two approximated the Harry Potter colors kind of the best that I could find. I bought 2 balls of, well, technically I bought 3 balls of the red and 1 of the Butternut. So I am currently working on the scarf, and I have been working, basically I started this last week, and I've been working 1 section a day. And the Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban scarf is this one. So it is the one with the little pinstripes as opposed to the one with that is equal stripes. I know there are different years. I know there are lots of factoids and trivia. For instance, I know this one should have 14 solid sections. I do not know whether it will. So what I did was I approximated about how wide in the round I wanted it to be. I wanted it to fit on a 16-inch circular needle. I am using a size 4 because I am using fingering weight yarn, and it was not important to me that it be super dense, but I wanted it to be, I wanted it to have a nice hand, and I didn't want it to be too loose either. So I am knitting 100 stitches in the round. That was of my own doing. I probably, as it turns out, could have done closer to 80, but I decided to do 100, and I'm in now, and I wanted each of my pattern repeats to be, okay, so here's my nerdiness. I figured that I want my scarf to be between 4 and 5 feet. I used approximately 5 feet. That is because Roxy is not 5 feet tall yet, but I decided it should be a nice long scarf to wrap around herself. I did not go for 6 or 7 feet because she is 7, and I don't know exactly how tall she is, but she's probably around 4 feet now, maybe a little bit less. So I did not want to make it huge. I wanted it to make her wingspan and a little bit. So basically what I did is I divided how many sections I wanted, which is I went 13 full sections plus then a little bit of the 4th. But so I said 14 sections, and I divided my 5 feet by 14 and came out with about between 4 and 4.5 inches per section. So then what I did was I knit the red until I had it where I wanted it, you know, in terms of length, and then added the gold, red, gold. And so in sum total, I believe this is about 4 inches. It may be a little bit more, it may be a little bit less, and I am just knitting section after section. Like I said, I'm doing 1 section in the evening, so I hope I will have this wrapped up within 2 weeks. I am most of the way through my first ball with only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections done. However, I also cut fringe before I even started the project because I did not want to get to the end and worry about fringe. So basically I have 2 balls to devote to the scarf, and then I have another ball of this one, which I hope I will double up and make a hat for her. That'll be about 200 yards, and then I will make some mittens for her, and that will probably take about 100 yards. So that is my plan. I'll use the gold as much as I can. It will definitely be in the scarf. If I have leftovers, it will be an accent in the mittens and the hat too, and that will be her Harry Potter sets. But Christmas will be here before I know it, and I need to get started on these things, so that is what I am doing. And again, that is Roxy's Harry Potter scarf, not Harry Potter's Roxy scarf. That would be very interesting, but no. So, very simple. Like I said, I have the fringe for both ends already cut out, and I will just keep knitting this in a tube. I have not decided on a hat or mittens yet, but I hope that I will get this entire project done in September. Get the scarf done, and then also have time to get her hat and mittens done, and then she will have a hat, mittens, and scarf set. So that is another one that I cast on. The final project that I cast on is some socks for my mom. As you know, I talked about doing socks as holiday gifts, and I'm kind of in a sock knitting mode, and I'm doing 100 days of socks with Anne of Woolly Wonka Fibers, which is knitting socks for 100 days. So I pulled out a precious skein of my hand-dyed yarn. I decided to pick something really warm and cushy. My mother is tiny, she gets cold easily, and although she lives in California, in non-pandemic times, she goes to visit the grandchildren, and she even goes in winter. So I thought that these would be good house socks at home and maybe boot socks when she's traveling in Chicago. I pulled out of my stash some Moon Rover sock in her Wild base. The Wild base is approximately 420 yards, 4 ounces of superwash merino. It is a slightly thicker base. It calls for a US 1, 2, or 1 or 2, but I find that I get bigger socks when I knit with this one. And the colorway is Gloom. Unfortunately, Moon Rover does not appear to be dying right now. I hope maybe she'll come back one day. If I remember correctly, she might have stopped to do some schooling, or it was a while ago, but I'm hoping maybe she'll come back one day. She did lovely, lovely fiber and roll-logs, and then she also did really squishy, scrumptious yarn. This is a mottled gray yarn. It's actually very much like the sweater that I'm knitting for myself, and this has pinks and purples and oranges and green. It's got almost a little bit of a rainbow. It's really hard to see. There's just lots of little splotches in there, and I thought these would be just really nice squishy socks for my mom. I had started out thinking that I would just do my vanilla sock pattern, and then I decided I wanted just a little bit of interest. Not too much, but just a little bit, and so I added a really simple lace panel, and now I cannot, the socks are called Wish You Were Here, and they were by A Handmade Life, so actually I can remember. I am knitting these on US 1s, which usually I knit my socks on US 0s, so I really did go up for this one. It was just too dense to knit on a US 0. And because my mom has smaller feet than I do, her feet are size 5.5, and she is really, really tiny. And because this one is actually kind of a thicker gauge than normal, I am down to actually 48 stitches, which is really funny because I've been knitting 48 stitch socks on 0s for my niece on with really thin stock yarn, but this is really plump and squishy, and I almost think it's a sport weight yarn. I had a moment of panic the other day, and then I tried the sock on my own foot and it fits, so I am not concerned at all. This is what I have so far. The Wish You Were Here pattern is a really simple 6-row repeat. It is just very, very light lace. Again, this looks quite a bit, it's almost striping a little bit. It looks quite a bit like my sweater, and then as you can see when I hold it up close, there are lots of little splotches of color in there, and I love those little splotches. Again, I just want these to be warm, comfy socks for my mom. I hope these will be done by the end of September. As you can see, I did the heel flap. I had to stop short of the heel turn because my call ended the other day, so these are what I plan to work on. Hopefully I'll have a sock finished this week. I just started these on, I think, Friday night, so I really have gotten plenty of progress, and I think I started Roxy's scarf on Thursday, so I really have been doing a little bit on all of my projects each day. I'm kind of breaking them down into sections and doing one section per day, so like tonight I'll probably turn the heel and get all the way through the gusset, and then I will just have the rest of the foot in the toe. So my plan is to kind of rip through all of these projects this month. I have 21 days left, I guess 22 days left. because next month I have some design projects and I'd like to get into more fall knitting projects. I just bought the materials to make a project from the Autumn Winter Rowan collection, which I'm excited about. Fair disclaimer, I have a client who has a Rowan flagship store, and so I decided to shop for something. I bought everything myself, so everything I buy and review will be it is always my own words and my own true feelings, but some of the things that I do obviously are sponsored, like I do a lot of sample knitting for Zen Yarn Garden, and of course they send me the yarn and compensate me for my efforts. So I just want to be clear about what I'm getting for free versus what I'm not, and I am looking forward to settling into that Rowan knit. I would like to do that next month, but I have a design project and I have another sample coming up, so if I cannot squeeze that in, it might actually just be my Nanny Swaymo project. So let's move on. It's 25 minutes and I'm still going. I know, it's a lot. Next up, I wanted to show you the progress on the crochet blanket. Frankly, I wanted to bring this one along because it had been a few weeks since I showed you, and because I am getting towards the end. I only have 2 skeins that are untouched at this point, so I am working my way through the last 4 colors on the blanket. It is getting large. My deadline is October birthdays, so this has to be done by the end of the month too. As you can see, there's a theme. All of these things in September. I don't know where I last left off. We had the white and cream, and we had the cream, and then we had the kind of cotton candy. We had blush in there and magenta, and now I am into this was not magenta, there was something else, because this is magenta. And then I am getting right into the kind of magenta-y purples, and I'm going to go into a couple violets. So this is where I'm at. As you can see, I have a few more up here, and then I'll start in on the last couple colors, and then all I will have is the border. But this is the aggressively pink and purple section of the blanket. If you remember, the first section, which I have folded over, is greens and kind of some blues and like a little bit of lilac in there. So this is, I'm doing this as a gradient. And then, like I said, I have 2 more, which are a like bluey, violety purple and, or a plum, and then like a violety color. So I'm really pleased with this. Just toddling right along in this, and I know she's gonna love it. As soon as I finish this one, I need to wash this one and the other one, which is for Miles. Their birthdays, my niece and nephew's birthdays are actually within a week of each other. They are 3 years apart, but their birthdays are in the same week. So basically, as soon as I finish these, I will probably box them up and send them up to them so that they will have them for fall. So almost done with these. Then you might ask, what's next on the blanket front? I actually have another one of these. If you may or may not remember, it's greens and oranges and fall tones, and I actually put it aside to do these 2 because I decided I wanted to do these for the kids and I wanted to finish them in time for their birthdays. So I have another one that's half done, and I will start working on that one. I found that this is the perfect project to keep at my computer. I work on it during meetings, you know, during Zoom calls and the like, and I also work on it at knit night in front of the computer, and so I have made really good progress on these blankets this year. I would love to get all 3 finished. I would love to get the fall colors one finished, because it actually matches the furniture in my mother-in-law's living room. The kit for that is another one of the Attic 24 Wool Warehouse combo kits, and she actually bought it for me as a gift. I had it on my wish list several years ago, and I thought it would be kind of neat to crochet it up and return it to her as a gift for this holiday season. So I definitely have lots to do, many miles to travel before we sleep, but lots going on and lots to show you. So let me take a sip of tea and then we'll get into spinning, and then I will let you go because this is already going to be a little bit of a longer one. So it's been a little bit since I brought you something pretty to look at from spinning. I actually had 2 braids on the go, and I plied both of them yesterday. So both need a washing, drying, and beauty shots before they go up into the shop, but both are going into the shop, and I did finish both in the last 24 hours. So the first one was a skein that I got from Knitty and Color. It was a skein of Tarhi. It did not have a name. I'm calling it Lightning. I don't know why. And it was black and gray and kind of a purpley pink, a little bit of purple and a little bit of punches of hot pink. And I finished that one, and the way that I decided to spin it is I decided to take the braid apart in halves, and basically it was sort of dyed in a gradient, more or less. One end was like very pink and purple, and then the other end kind of faded gray into black. And I decided that depending on how I spun it, there would be more or less purple in it, and I thought the purple was kind of the most interesting part of the braid. So I took the purple part and I divided it into lots of small chunks and spun it kind of as half of the braid, and then the other half of the braid I spun the grays and blacks. So as you can see in here, it is very moody and dark. Of course, the black and gray really darkened it up, but you can see some of the little, like here, you can see the little pop of sort of more magenta-y colored, and there was another like right here. There are some pops of more pink versus purple. There are a couple spots in this yarn that are just black and white. You can see that in the barber pole, kind of in the very light gray section that met with the black. So this one is kind of just a mix of all different things. There's lots of purple everywhere, but it is a very, very muted skein. So I will say that the purple is a very bright purple, but like I said, the dark just tends to mute that quite a bit. So I expect this skein will be about 300 to 325 yards. It will probably puff up quite a bit because Tarhi is really fluffy and poofy. And that will go into my shop later this week once it is done. The second skein that I spun was the most recent well, not the most recent, but the next to most recent Hello Yarn Club colorway, which was Scorched Velvet. And that was the July colorway. It came out at the end of July, so hopefully everyone has it by now, even with the postal service being kind of crazy. This was blues and pinks and oranges, and it was kind of a very muted rainbow, and this one came out kind of muted jewel tones. So it is very, very blue, but you can see the little bits of orange and red in there as well. It is just a nice, it's not super bright, but it's not like super pastel. It just, to me, it reminds me of Southwestern colors that are just a little bit dusty. It definitely has some purple in there, and it's got some orange. It's got a little bit of turquoise. And well, it's a lot of turquoise actually, and some blue, and it just, like I said, it reminds me of kind of colors of the Southwest. So, and this one I got really great yardage in. This is Falkland, which is soft and very lustrous. It probably won't puff up super much. Falkland is a slightly longer wool, so it's a little bit more like a BFL in that sense, but it is very soft. And I think I'm probably going to get around 400 yards with this one. Again, it has not been washed yet, but it is 4.2 ounces, and I think I'll probably get around 400 yards. So those will be going up in the shop this week if those appeal to you. That is the Corner of Knit and Tea at Etsy, on Etsy, and my patterns are also available for sale there if you have trouble using Ravelry. So that brings me to what I'm going to spin for this week. The tour is still going on and I am still going to spin. This is a braid that I purchased from Fat Cat Knits. She is one of my favorites, and this is the Leela Gradient. I purchased this from her Etsy shop, which is fatcatknits@etsy.com. And this is 4 ounces of Polworth, and technically this is in a gradient, so I haven't entirely decided how I'm going to spin this. This is technically a gradient because it moves through all the different colors, and what I haven't decided is, well, it's not really a gradient. It says it's a gradient, but I'm not sure that it, well, I guess the colors sort of change into each other, but it also, like, repeats. Weird. So what I have not decided is how I'm going to spin this. I could tear it into tiny pieces and do my usual barber pole spin, which will kind of mix all the colors up. It would either make a really bright colored skein, or it might end up looking a little bit muddy, which is really not where I want to go with that. The other thing that I could do is I could divide it in two straight down the center of the long braid, and then I could spin one half and spin the other half, and then try and apply them up together. In practice, I will not get a perfect gradient doing it with that, the colors will mix because one will be slightly finer spun than the other or a slightly different amount. And I might do that because that might be pretty, although you'll have this whole bulk of red in the middle, and I just don't know if that's, I don't know. I haven't decided how I'm going to spin this. If you have ideas, feel free to leave comments on this video. But that is what will be up for this week. I just feel like these are great fall colors too, like the reds and yellows. I know the pinks and purples are not really, but like the yellows and greens and oranges, kind of as the leaves turn, I think that would be really, really pretty. So that is what I'm going to work on for this week. This will also go in the shop. If you have questions or are interested in anything, check out the Etsy shop, or you can always message me on Ravelry or on Instagram, and let me know what you think. So I think that is all I have for this week. We concluded our holiday sock knit along, crochet along in the Ravelry group, and I have awarded the prize for that. That went out in the mail today. We are at episode 294, so I have already started thinking about what I will do for episode 300. So stay tuned, because in several weeks we'll be doing that. That'll be right in time for the holidays, and I suspect that there will be a giveaway of some sort associated with that, probably hand spun or my or fiber or spinning services, something like that. Fall is coming. There are sweater knit-alongs. You're invited to join Nanny Swaymo, which is not my challenge, but it is a challenge that I am a moderator in the group for. That is National Knit a Sweater Month. That will start November 1st through 30th. And the challenge is to knit a sweater that is 10,000 stitches. So you can check that out on Ravelry if you are available to access it, if you can access it right now. And if not, start thinking about what you want to knit for the fall. The other thing that will be coming is in November and December, we'll have the gift along, which is make something for someone other than yourself. And we'll have prize draws for that as well. So I hope you have a lovely week. I hope I haven't talked your ear off. There was lots to show today, and I always like it when I have a full podcast. I hope that you have a lovely week ahead. I will come to you again next Monday, not Tuesday. I apologize for the delay, but I will come to you again next Monday. And until I see you again, I will say happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye.